Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Gopi Jana Ballava Giribaradhare Gopi Jana Ballava Giribaradhare Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachare Yamunatira Vanachare Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Gopi Jana Ballava Giribaradhare Gopi Jana Ballava Giribaradhare Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachare Yamunatira Vanachare Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Srimad, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki, ISKCON Samstapakacharya Srila Prabhupada Ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki, Sri Sri Radha Radhanath Ki, Sri Giri Govardhan Ki, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu Ki, Sankirtan Yagya Ki, Go Premanande, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Now, someone who knows how to operate the sound system, it's sort of, feeding back a bit and booming. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 23. Maharaj Pritu's Going Back Home. Text 7. Titikshur Yata Vag Danta Urdva Reta Chitanila Ariradayisho Krishnam Acharat Tapa Uttamam Titikshur Yata Vagdanta Ordvareta Jitanila Ariradayeshu Krishnam Acharatapa Uttamam Titikshur Yata Vagdanta Ordvareta Jitanila Ariradayeshu Krishnam Acharatapa Uttamam Titikshur Yata Vagdanta Ordvareta Jitanila Ariradayeshu Krishnam Acharatapa Uttamam. to take sure, tolerating, yata, controlling, vak, words, danta, controlling the senses, urdhvareta, without discharge of semen, jita anila, controlling the life air, ariradayasho, simply desiring, Krishnam, Lord Krishna, acharat, practice, tapa, austerities, uttamam, the best. Translation. Maharaj Prithu underwent all these severe austerities in order to control his words and his senses, to refrain from discharging his semen, and to control the life air within his body. All this he did for the satisfaction of Krishna. He had no other purpose. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In Kali Yuga, the following is recommended. Harir Nam, Harir Nam, Harir Nam Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nasjeva, 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 Gatir Anyata, which is found in Caitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila, chapter 17, verse 21. In order to be recognized by Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one should chant the holy name of the Lord continuously, 24 hours a day. Unfortunate persons who cannot accept this formula prefer to execute some type of pseudo-meditation without accepting the other processes of austerity. The fact is, however, that one must accept either the severe method of austerity described above to become purified, or take to the process of devotional service recommended for pleasing the Supreme Lord Krishna. The person who is Krishna conscious is most intelligent, because in Kali Yuga it is not at all possible to undergo such severe austerities. We need only follow great personalities like Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In his Shikshastika, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wrote, Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam, all glories to the holy names of Lord Krishna, which from the very beginning purify the heart and immediately liberate one. Bhava Mahadevagni Nirvapanam. If the real purpose of all yoga is to please Lord Krishna, then this simple Bhakti yoga system recommended for this age is sufficient. It is necessary, however, to engage constantly in the service of the Lord. Although Prithu Maharaj executed his austerities long before the appearance of Lord Krishna on this planet, his purpose was still to please Krishna. There are many fools who claim that worship of Krishna began only about 5,000 years ago after the appearance of Lord Krishna in India. But this is not a fact. Prithu Maharaj worshipped Krishna millions of years ago, for Prithu happened to be a descendant of the family of Maharaj Dhruva, who reigned for 36,000 years during the Satya Yuga age. Unless his total lifespan was 100,000 years, how could Dhruva Maharaj reign over the world for 60,000 years? The point is that Krishna worship existed at the beginning of creation and has continued to exist throughout Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, and Dwapara Yuga. And now it is continuing in Kali Yuga. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna appears not only in this millennium of Brahma's life, but in every millennium. Therefore, worship of Krishna is conducted in all millenniums. It is not that Krishna worship began only when Krishna appeared on this planet 5,000 years ago. This is a foolish conclusion that is not substantiated by Vedic literatures. Also of significance in this verse are the words Ariradayishu Krishnam Acharat Tapa Uttamam. Maharaj Prithu underwent severe types of austerities for the express purpose of worshipping Krishna. Krishna is so kind, especially in this age, that he appears in the transcendental vibration of his holy name. As is said in the Narada Pancharatra, Aradito yadi haris tapasa tata kim. If Krishna is worshipped, if he is the goal of advancement, there is no need for one to execute severe types of tapasya, because one has already reached his destination. If, after executing all types of tapasya, one cannot reach Krishna, all his tapasya has no value, for without Krishna, all austerity is simply wasted labor. Shrama eva hi kevalam, Srimad Bhagavatam 128. We should therefore not be discouraged just because we cannot go to the forest and practice severe austerities. Our life is so short that we must strictly adhere to the principles laid down by the Vaishnava Acharyas and peacefully execute Krishna consciousness. There is no need to become despondent. Narottam Das Thakur recommends Anande Balahari Bhaja Vrindavan Sri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majayaman. For a transcendental, blissful life, chant the Hare Krishna mantra, come worship the holy place of Vrindavan, and always engage in the service of the Lord, of the spiritual master, and of the Vaishnavas. This Krishna consciousness movement is therefore very safe and easy. We have only to execute the order of the Lord and fully surrender unto him. We have only to execute the order of the spiritual master, preach Krishna consciousness, and follow in the path of the Vaishnavas. The spiritual master represents both Lord Krishna and the Vaishnavas. Therefore, by following the instructions of the spiritual master and by chanting Hare Krishna, everything will be all right. Titikshur yata vagdanta urvareta jitanila ariradayishu krishnam acharat tapa uttamam. Maharaj Prithu underwent all these severe austerities in order to control his words and his senses, to refrain from discharging his semen, and to control the life air within his body. All this he did for the satisfaction of Krishna. He had no other purpose. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschya Deshatarane Vanchakalpaturibhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Yes, so Prithu Maharaj, we read on Tuesday the previous verse, number 6, which listed out some or the main of these austerities that he followed. Let us just read through that verse again to just understand exactly what is being discussed here. So it says, following the principles of forest living and the footsteps of the great sages and munis, Prithu Maharaj accepted 5 kinds of heating processes during the summer season, exposed himself to torrents of rain in the rainy season, and in the winter stood in water up to his neck. He also used to simply lie down on the floor to sleep. So we talked about that on Tuesday, and it's very easy to understand. These are very drastic activities, and Prabhupada mentions in today's purport that this is just not really possible. It's just not possible for people nowadays in the Kali Yuga. And we, in a sort of light-hearted mood, suggested if anyone wants, they can try it out. It's now winter, and the process in winter is standing in the water up to your neck. And not just for a matter of minutes or even an hour or two, but actually the entire day. So, now we called for volunteers a little bit. Did anyone do that? No, of course not. So anyway, yes, what to do. This is Kali Yuga, and we have these, by comparison with Prithu Maharaj, these very weak and insufficient material bodies. He had such a material body, his body lasted for 100,000 years. I was just listening to Prabhupada yesterday, and Prabhupada was saying that in this Kali Yuga we may live for 100 years, but then Prabhupada said basically to the effect that this is very unusual. It's very unusual. You know, we're all adults, so we have relatives and people we know who are older than us, and you know, from our childhood, who are much older than us. But how many of us had or have or had a relative or someone we knew who lived to be 100? I don't know actually about yourselves. Perhaps someone did in your life, but in my life, my great maternal great-grandmother lived to be 99. Sri Sri Radha Radhanath Sri Giri Govardhan Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. And so my great-grandmother lived to be 99, and it was not easy. And my own mother, I think, was the next long-lived. She lived to be 91, but she was in a hopeless state, physically and particularly psychologically. Oh, Krishna. Yes, that was just in making it to 91. And anyway, I don't know about yourselves, but to live so long, actually 100 years, is really extremely unusual. And in most cases, if someone makes it to that point, then they're sort of quite severely incapacitated. Yes, right, but Prithu Maharaj lived for 100,000 years. And that means that his body, although his body is made of flesh and blood and bones and the sort of the usual things, but his particular material body made of those things, though the things that his body was made of were of a much higher grade than ours, and therefore the body was able to live comfortably and in good strength for such an extremely long period of time by our standards. He ruled for 36,000 years, and ruling if you're someone like King Charles, ruling basically does not mean ruling, but it means going to all sorts of charitable events. This is like 90% at least of what he does. You just go and go to some nice charitable event where people are helping people, usually people, and just say a few encouraging words. You're doing very nicely. It's very good. And that's what it means to be the King of England at this moment. Doesn't mean you actually rule and you're actually in charge and you're actually managing every day what goes on. But Maharaj Prithu was doing that for 36,000 years. So that's very amazing. By our standards, it's completely impossible. But, we've given the example before of dogs. We're all familiar with dogs, cats. And dogs, a dog is considered old if it reaches 15. And the dog's hair usually becomes grey, which is one of the typical signs that you're really getting into old age. And then to have a dog that's 20 is extremely unusual. Of course, there are certain animals that somehow live extremely long lives. Tortoises. Like if you go to Mauritius, they're in one of the parks, they have a tortoise area. Well, you get them here and there in Mauritius, not many, but a few. And apparently these tortoises live to be 100 years or something like that. And it means that somehow or other, whatever, it's flesh and blood, that's what it is, but it's of a higher grade, and it doesn't deteriorate so quickly. And elephants live long. I don't know about 100 years, but they do live a lot longer than dogs. And there's a few other, even the cows, who are very special, they also only live to be 20, 15 or 20, and that's it. So, yes. So the point there is that things are very deteriorated, including just the physical structure of our bodies. What to speak of living for 100,000 years? Lord Brahma, who also has a body made of flesh and blood and bones and so on, but he lives for 311 trillion years. That's just, what can we say? It's just another dimension altogether. 311 trillion, 40 billion, give or take a few billion here or there. But when you get to that level, a few billion here or there doesn't really make much difference at all. So therefore, Prabhupada is emphasizing here that in this Kali Yuga, the only practical age is devotion, the only practical activity, program for becoming God conscious or just becoming spiritually advanced in any way is to render devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this age, Prabhupada makes the point that people, unfortunate people, who are not able to get into the process of devotional service, which is particularly practiced on the basis of chanting the holy names of the Lord. People who are unfortunate and therefore not able to accept the process of devotional service based on the chanting of the holy names. So they may try to take up some other some process of this sort, some austerity or something like that. But Prabhupada makes the point that they prefer, generally they prefer to execute some type of pseudo-meditation without accepting the other processes of austerity. Other processes means the standing in water up to your neck for the whole day, for the whole winter. Yeah, or in the summer. Of course, here it's not that hot in summer compared to in India. It's much hotter. So sitting down with fires on your four sides, left and right, front and back, and sitting under the sun with the sun blazing on your head. I don't know if they would wear cloth or if they had sun hats or something like that, but I don't know if you've had sunstroke. Anyone had sunstroke? It's not much fun. Yeah, I got sunstroke twice actually. Once in Mayapur and once in Mauritius I got sunstroke. Mild, relatively mild, but sure, it was not nice. Yes, so the people of this age who are not willing to take up devotional service based on the foundation of chanting the holy names, they prefer to execute some, minor process, not really very serious process at all, and even, Prabhupada says, pseudo-meditation. Yeah, Prabhupada noticed when Prabhupada was associating with Dr. Mishra in New York, right in the very first days he was in America, and at least once, perhaps more than once, he went out to Mr. Mishra's yoga ashram out in the country, like a farm sort of situation. And there was a meditation room, and Srila Prabhupada went to the meditation room to chant some japa, and there were a few people there sitting down cross-legged, and that sort of profile, and some of them with their eyes closed and in the this sort of position type of thing, like official meditation pose. But Prabhupada noticed that some of them dozed off. And of course, we are familiar with devotees sometimes dozing off. Has it ever happened to you unexpectedly without you even knowing, and certainly not, you weren't really wanting to? But so some of these people dozed off and they just fell asleep, and they remained asleep for a little while. They didn't just sort of doze off and then wake up like that. They actually fell asleep while sitting. And he noticed one or two of them at the end of the session, they turned to their friends and said, that was a nice meditation session. I really feel, enlivened and sort of invigorated by it. And Prabhupada commented that, well, of course you feel invigorated if you've had a nap or something like that. You feel a little more awake and alert and, physically a little stronger. Right. And Prabhupada said also that when he was in New York, of course he was based in New York at that time, but when he was in New York, Prabhupada, as the just fully dedicated preacher, he was always looking for ways or venues that he could use for doing some preaching of Krishna consciousness. So he visited some yoga societies in New York. There was a number of them. And generally, Prabhupada wrote that they were those yoga societies, the practitioners, the places were populated by middle-aged ladies who were trying to lose weight. So again, it's pseudo from the point of view of actual spiritual realizations and particularly Krishna consciousness. So these people, they will not and cannot, even if they tried, accept the other processes, the real processes of austerity as Maharaj Prithu did. In the summer, in the winter, in the rainy season, of course, in India, particularly in those days, and even to some degree nowadays, less, but to some degree, there's actually a rainy season, which is, depending on which part of India you're in, it may be more or less now, and go through, again, depending on where you are, go through till September, something like that. We went to Haridwar in September last year, and the idea was, after visiting some places around the Haridwar area, all of us means about 650 devotees, we would drive up to Badrinath, which is right up, it's really way up. But we couldn't, because there was too much rain. And the roads up, particularly up in the mountains, the roads got washed out. So one devotee, it was interesting, one devotee, businessman, Indian, but living in America and apparently quite successful, he sponsored Romapad Swami and me to go by helicopter to Badrinath first, then across to Kedarnath, and then back to Haridwar, same day. He paid for it, which cost a few $1,000s actually, but he, a successful businessman, he could afford it. So anyway, we went up there, and what was I saying? Huh? Anyway, we went up there and something happened. What was it? Sure. Slipped my mind. Other processes of austerity. Well, anyway, we went up there, and oh yes, right, okay. This is the thing that happened. As we were leaving, because Badrinath you can drive to, you can just drive all the way, in even in a bus, and what to speak of in a motor car. So as we are flying out of Badrinath in our helicopter, what did we see? But just before Badrinath, like a kilometer before, or something like even half a kilometer before, where the road just narrows and becomes really windy, just before the town of Badrinath, there was one-way traffic, one lane. And either, if you're going this way, you'd get the right of way for a while, and the others who are coming down would have to wait. And if you're coming down, then the ones coming up would have to wait for a while. But it appeared there was no one managing the going up and the coming down. Krishna. And so we saw on a road where there's no question of two cars going side by side. There was a whole stream of cars going in both directions, and the ones in the front were just bumper to bumper with each other, the ones going up and going down. And you know India, if you know India, no one's going to give way. I mean, at least it's not common. Yeah. And I don't know, maybe if we flew back later, the same vehicles would have been there face to face. But anyway, yes. So, yes, it was so much rain, the rainy season. And Maharaj Prithu and others like him who are actually doing real severe austerities, they would just sit in the rain. And sometimes, particularly in those days, even now to some degree, sometimes it just rains for days. Just all day, all night, for days. So really, such an approach to Krishna consciousness or to any form of spiritual realization, even some impersonal form, it's very demanding and difficult. And, well, the basic idea, as Prabhupada mentions here, that is that in this Kali Yuga, people just cannot do that. Yes, it's just beyond the people. And, I mean, other than apparently just a handful who really do, they like live in the Himalayas, other than a handful of people like that, there's just nobody who can do it in this Kali Yuga. So therefore, Param Vrajayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam, that in this Kali Yuga, the only process other than for an extremely, probably like not 100, an extremely small number of people, the only process where there's any chance of making any progress and even ultimately going back to Godhead is Krishna consciousness, devotional service on the foundation of the chanting of the holy names. And Prabhupada, even that, here, what does Prabhupada say at the beginning of the purport? Do you remember? One should chant the holy name of the Lord continuously, 24 hours a day. Any volunteers? We'll check back in a few days, see how you do. Hare Krishna. But anyway, it's okay. At least 16 rounds a day. And those 16 must be done, should be done as attentively as one can manage. And then progress will be there. Progress will be there step by step, but progress will be there. And ultimately, one will be able to really please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna. And then by His mercy, one may go back home, back to Godhead. One may come to the platform of actual pure devotional service. It's the only thing, Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam, which will purify the heart, free one from the contaminations, of this material world. So therefore, Prabhupada's main point is, it is necessary to engage constantly in the service of the Lord. Not just part-time. Sometimes we read about or hear about devotees who are not living in a temple, and at least in the past they were sometimes called part-time devotees. They had families, they had to work, and that way of life. But they were devotees, and I remember we used to call them part-time devotees. What does that mean? It means the rest of the time they're not devotees. They're sort of, materialists or something like that. But actually the fact is that if a person is sincere and serious about Krishna consciousness and is in such a situation, having to work and maintain a family, etc., then it can be done in Krishna consciousness. Even working in a materialistic organization with other people who are materialistic, if one uses one's intelligence how to deal with the situation and the people, then one can remain Krishna conscious all the time, even though one is in such a situation. And it's not just on Sunday or festival days that then you are actually a devotee as opposed to not really being a devotee. Yes, so Prabhupada makes the point. I mean, it's a very interesting subject that there are many people, or Prabhupada says there are many fools who claim that there was no such thing as worship of Krishna until Krishna appeared about 5,000 years ago. So before that, Krishna was sort of unknown. But then he appeared and did so many wonderful and amazing things. So then people thought, oh, yes, we must worship Krishna. But here we are. This is now Satya Yuga. Maharaj Prithu is living in Satya Yuga. And the sort of common lifespan was 100,000 years. So, and in the verse itself, what does it say? It says very specifically, Arira Dayeshu Krishnam. He was actually engaging in all these austerities as part of his program for pleasing Krishna and sort of preparing himself to go more deeply into devotional service. Yes, go more deeply into devotional service by having taken control and having gotten control of one's senses and mind and being able to engage these things in Krishna's service in an uninterrupted way. Yes, that's why he did it. That there was not another reason for him performing these extreme austerities. This was his reason, so he could absorb himself more fully in remembrance of Krishna and rendering of service to Krishna, and also chanting of the holy names of Krishna. Otherwise, even if you make some attempt, Prabhupada talks of the pseudo-meditation, but even if someone tries to do some form of austerity, a little related to the austerities Prithu Maharaj was doing, then Prabhupada, what does he say here? That if basically, if you've performed some sort of austerity, but it didn't help you to become focused on Krishna, or focused more on Krishna, then Prabhupada refers to Bhagavatam 128, Shrama eva hi kevalam. Then it means all your tapasya, all your austerity is no value, just a waste of time. Because without Krishna, all austerity is simply wasted labor. And that particular verse, Bhagavatam 128, and that particular line which Prabhupada quotes, is very emphatically saying that Shrama eva hi kevalam. It's the last line of Bhagavatam 128. Shrama means waste of time. Eva means definitely. He also means definitely. So it's definitely, definitely. And Kevalam means only. So you couldn't really put it more strongly that it's a waste of time. It is definitely, definitely only a waste of time. That's what the Bhagavatam says quite literally. Definitely, definitely, certainly, certainly, only a waste of time. In other words, there is no positive value in it at all. In fact, it may even be of some negative value, so to speak, that you may go backwards in your position spiritually, or your position in Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada makes the point, he basically concludes the purport by saying that some of us may think that, oh, I wish I could do austerities like Prithu Maharaj, but I can't. Oh, what a shame. Prabhupada says there's no need to become despondent. Yes. There's no need to become despondent that, oh no, I can't do these austerities. Yes, what we should do, Narottam Das Thakur says, Ananda Balahari, in bliss, chant Hari, chant the names of Krishna, Bhaja Vrindavana, worship Vrindavan, and Sri Guru Vaishnava Pade, Majaya Mana, and just serve the lotus feet of the spiritual master, the devotees, absorb your mind in remembering them, their instructions, and so on like that. And in this way, you will have a transcendental, blissful life. Chanting Hare Krishna, going to Vrindavan and worshipping Vrindavan and all the places around Vrindavan, Govardhan, etc. And always engaged in the service of the Lord, the Guru, and the devotees. So Prabhupada makes the point, concludes the purport by saying, this Krishna consciousness movement is therefore very safe and easy. We just have to do these things. Execute the order of the spiritual master, preach Krishna consciousness, follow in the footsteps of the devotees, and then by chanting Hare Krishna, everything will be all right. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Any comments, questions? Jai Satchidanand Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much. You quoted that line Prabhupada quoted, 128, Shama Evi Kevalam. I was thinking in that conversation was between Parikshit Maharaj and Sukadeva Goswami, and Parikshit Maharaj only had 7 days to live. So, what do you want to hear? At the time is like,
yes.
So when will our 7 days come in? If we live 100 years, when will our...
Well, we may not get notice, but we may be in the 7, not just the 7th. We might be in the 4th or 3rd or 2nd or even the last one. But Prabhupada makes the point. I mean, we read it in the purport, but I didn't refer to it as I was talking. Prabhupada makes the point that in the Kali Yuga, our lifetimes are very short anyway. And, I sort of hate to say it, but it's true. In the 7 weeks, if this is day 1 and then through to 7, at least one devotee somewhere, not necessarily in Durban, but on this planet, will pass away. It's just, there's so many devotees. There's hundreds of thousands, there's millions even, of devotees, and someone's going to pass away. And maybe the person, or maybe there's going to be more than one, and maybe one will pass away in like unexpected circumstances, like an accident, and not just old age or some cancer or something like that. Yes, so we should be mindful that, well, actually what Prabhupada recommended was thinking that today may actually be my last day. Because the thing is, one day it will be, and you don't know when that's going to be. So you might as well start thinking like that now, that this may be the day I will leave this body in some way or another. So if I'm not ready enough, if I'm not focused enough in Krishna consciousness, and it actually happens, then it could be an unfortunate situation. So better to really be ready. So therefore Prabhupada said, all devotees should think that today may well be my last day, and all materialists who just, they just want to be absorbed in materialism, all the materialists should think, I'll never die. Because if they start thinking that, well, I could die today or even next year or something like that, then they'll lose their enthusiasm for their materialism. So for them, in that sense, better that they think, I'll never die, because then they'll just get into it and try and enjoy this material world. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Anyone else? Srila Prabhupada ki jai.